just leaked, and trust me, Raider Nation, this one is shaking the entire building from the ground up. A decision so unexpected, so explosive, that even people inside the franchise are whispering like they've just seen a ghost. Behind closed doors, a conversation is gaining real momentum, one that centers around one of the biggest stars in silver and black history, a massive $106.5 million commitment, and a potential move that could completely reshape the identity of the Las Vegas Raiders. The details are heavy. The consequences are massive. And the reaction around the league? Pure shock. But before we dive into the latest updates, the real motives, and the names pushing this bombshell forward, before listening to the latest news, subscribe to the channel, like it, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Let's move on to the new news. Now, let's get into it. The 2025 season has turned into a disaster for the Las Vegas Raiders. Sitting at 2-10, frustrations have exploded, expectations have collapsed, and the hope that came with new coaching leadership has completely faded away. And as the offseason approaches, one decision is hanging over the team like a storm cloud. Should the Raiders trade Maxx Crosby? Crosby, one of the only bright spots this season, signed his 3-year, $106.5 million contract extension earlier in 2025. Yet even while the team has struggled, he continues to play at an elite level. 59 tackles, 8 sacks, and 23 tackles for loss. His effort has never dipped for even a second. But the conversation is no longer about effort. It's about the future. Inside the building, some believe this might be the only chance to reset the franchise. A trade involving Crosby could free up nearly $30 million in cap space, allowing the Raiders to rebuild the offensive line, upgrade the offense, and bring in young talent through draft capital. And for the first time, the idea isn't being rejected outright. For years, teams have called, desperate to land Crosby, but the Raiders always shut those doors immediately. This time feels different, because this time, the organization is staring at long-term financial issues, a broken roster, and a future that needs more than one superstar to fix. Trading Crosby would be painful, maybe the toughest move the franchise has made in years. His leadership, his work ethic, his presence in the locker room are unmatched. You don't replace Maxx Crosby. You only try to survive the loss. But the harsh truth is here. The Raiders need a full rebuild, not patchwork. A Crosby trade could bring premium draft picks, young defensive pieces, and space to finally rebuild the team from the ground up. And from Crosby's perspective, leaving might give him something he's never truly had, a real shot at a championship. At 28, in the prime of his career, joining a contender could be the opportunity he's earned through sheer effort and relentless drive. A trade might open the door for Maxx Crosby to chase the championship he deserves. But the shockwaves inside the Raiders organization don't stop there. If Crosby leaving sounds like an earthquake, the next part of this story feels more like the entire desert floor shifting under the franchise. When Las Vegas brought in Pete Carroll in 2025, the reaction was electric. A Super Bowl champion, a proven leader, a coach known for rebuilding broken teams, Carroll looked like the perfect answer for a franchise desperate to reset its identity. Raider Nation believed stability had finally arrived. But the season didn't match the promise. As the losses piled up and the team spiraled to 2-10, the confidence surrounding Carroll began to vanish. His old-school, win-right-now philosophy clashed hard with where the Raiders actually are, not a contender, but a roster needing patience, development, and long-term structure. Instead, the focus stayed on squeezing out short-term wins, and the team paid the price. One of the biggest frustrations came from Carroll's handling of the quarterback position. Even as struggles continued, the decision never shifted. Veterans stayed on the field. Opportunities for younger quarterbacks never came. And week after week, fans watched the offense stall, with no sign of a plan for the future. It didn't stop there. Young talent like Jackson Powers Johnson, drafted with the expectation of becoming a cornerstone piece, barely touched the field. In a season built for growth, development took a back seat. Veterans kept their snaps. Youth remained on the bench. And the gap between where the Raiders are and where they need to be only grew wider. Now, inside the franchise, a difficult conversation has begun. Is Pete Carroll the right leader for a full rebuild? His age, his philosophy, and his insistence on short-term answers have made his future uncertain. If the team continues on this path, the Raiders may be forced to make another major decision, moving on from Carroll and bringing in a coach aligned with a true long-term rebuild. But even that won't be enough on its own. Because the hard truth is this: the Raiders' issues stretch far beyond the head coach. A struggling offense, a fractured roster, ineffective development, and a lack of direction have all contributed to one of the most disappointing seasons in franchise history. The arrival of new assistants hasn't fixed it. The preseason optimism didn't fix it. The mid-season adjustments didn't fix it. The Las Vegas Raiders need more than tweaks. They need a complete reset, top to bottom. Until that happens, the problems we're seeing on the field won't just continue, they'll get worse. The problems on offense didn't start with Pete Carroll. His arrival only exposed how deep the cracks truly run. The quarterback brought in to stabilize the team, Geno Smith, has struggled from week one. His inconsistency, missed reads, and inability to elevate the offense have turned a temporary solution into a long-term headache. Every drive feels like a gamble, and too often, the Raiders come up empty. And the issues around him? They've only made things worse. The offensive line, built to be a backbone for this offense, has collapsed under pressure, literally. Instead of protecting the quarterback, the line has leaked sacks, blown assignments, and forced the offense into survival mode. A team cannot build an identity when its quarterback is running for his life every Sunday. Then there's the ground game. Ashton Jeanty came in with real promise, but the Raiders have never given him a foundation to thrive on. With no consistent blocking and no rhythm, the running game has been flat, leaving the offense completely predictable. When defenses know the Raiders can't run, the entire playbook shrinks, and that's exactly what has happened. Chip Kelly's arrival as part of the staff may have been a necessary move, but it was never going to fix structural problems that go far deeper than a single coach. The Raiders' offensive woes aren't about one play caller, one player, or one scheme. They're the product of years of patchwork decisions instead of building a real foundation. And the most glaring issue remains the quarterback position. The Raiders have spent season after season plugging holes instead of committing to a true franchise leader. Geno Smith was a temporary answer, but the future needs more than temporary. Without a long-term quarterback, someone young, dynamic, and built for rebuild, this offense will stay stuck in neutral. The offensive line needs rebuilding. The running game needs direction. The quarterback room needs a future. Until all three pieces are addressed, the Raiders won't just struggle. They'll continue to fall further behind the rest of the league. But the issues haunting this team aren't just on offense. Even the defense, at times the only thing keeping the Raiders from total collapse, hasn't been able to hold steady. There are moments when the unit looks aggressive, fast, and dominant, and then moments when it completely breaks down at the worst possible time. That inconsistency has been one of the team's biggest enemies. The secondary has struggled to keep pace with modern offenses, giving up explosive plays that swing momentum instantly. The linebacker group, meanwhile, has lacked the speed and discipline needed to anchor the middle of the field. When these breakdowns happen, the entire defense collapses, no matter how hard the front line fights. If the Raiders want to build a defense capable of carrying the franchise into the future, they must commit to youth, speed, and long-term development. That means drafting the right players, finding scheme fits, and refusing to rely on short-term band-aids. Because the truth is simple, a rebuild isn't complete unless both sides of the ball rise together. And now the big question hovers over the organization. How should the Raiders rebuild this team to finally escape the cycle they've been trapped in? Should leadership at the top be changed? Should the franchise commit fully to young talent, a long-term plan, and a culture reset? Or is a deeper overhaul needed, one that reshapes the entire identity of the team? These decisions will determine the direction of the Las Vegas Raiders for years to come. What happens next could either rebuild the franchise or send it further into the spiral they've been fighting to escape.